Welcome to the High Agency Podcast with your host, Noah Ravoy.
Welcome. Everyone can earn more, improve their relationships, and get more of what they want out of life by learning to write well and be more persuasive. Good writing is good thinking, and it helps us to clarify our thoughts and leverage all of our other skills. Today, my guest is Joshua Lisec. He's a ghostwriter and a master of writing and persuasion. Welcome, Joshua.
Hey, Coach. I'm pretty stoked to be here with you today. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great. I've been listening to you do a lot of short, super powerful, super compact videos. I get a lot out of them, and I love to see your posts and your excellent questions that you do on Twitter as well. And I was wondering if you could tell my guests a little bit about what a ghostwriter is, because I think that's probably the first question they're going to have.
Yeah. A ghostwriter, I've always defined ghostwriting as acting in print. It's where a professional writer portrays the voice of their client, the author, the blogger, the speaker, the course creator, portrays their ideas, their voice on the page, but it's the best way they could have written it. It's very common with business owners, entrepreneurs, creative people who are extremely busy. And if they could delegate content creation, not the ideation, but the content creation, they still have the ideas and the stories, but they just want to talk to a ghostwriter for 20 minutes and say, here's everything that's on my mind right now. And then that ghostwriter can turn it into 5 emails or a short ebook or a sales page. And I've got clients, we meet regularly on Zoom, and I ghostwrite articles for them, white paper, speeches, social media posts, emails, ghost tweet even. But my most popular offer is ghostwriting of books, full-length books. I'm currently ghostwriting my 56th, 57th, and 58th books for clients.
Wow, that's fantastic. You have some bestsellers amongst your clients as well. I know some of your clients, it's getting to a point where they don't want it to be a secret anymore that it was ghostwritten. And they're so excited about it because it's actually a sign that they made a good choice. Some people think, oh, I'm going to have a book ghostwritten because I can't write. It's not because you can't write. It's because the ghostwriter is going to do a better job of it than you will.
Right. Yeah, that's true in some cases, but in other cases, what you'll see happen is they just don't have time because writing books is such a time-intensive activity. I tell clients, like, I can be your manuscript mentor, your copy coach, the guy who walks you through the process. You do the first draft, but you can be looking at about 20 hours a week you have to devote to writing your book. It is an intense process versus working with a ghostwriter. Usually about 2 hours a week is what I tell clients to expect. So with a run the numbers, that 18-hour difference, what their time is worth. Oh yeah, it's literally a no-brainer to delegate that, especially if they don't want to, especially if they feel like they have an emotional attachment to writing it themselves. That's how you know you need a ghostwriter, is when you feel like, well, I don't need a ghostwriter, I can do it myself. That's like the person who says, I don't need an accountant, I can do my own books for my business. Yeah, but is that a money-making activity? No, it's not. Now, marketing your book is a money-making activity, but writing the book is not, period. Get it off your plate. Be smart.
Yeah, there's no ROI until it's published.
That's right. That's why you want to get it done and you want to get it done right as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people might not perceive right away, is that there's a return on investment. This isn't throwaway money. You're not just kind of, I'm doing this because I told this to some people and they're like, well, that sounds like a vanity project. And I said, no, it's not. It's a very good business investment. You are putting money into a book to say you're an expert on a subject. Your expertise ends up in a book. Yes, someone is helping you with that, but it's your expertise on the book, which means that you're going to be able to charge more per hour. You're going to get more bookings for clients, whatever it is that your business will raise in its profile. And I think it's one of the best marketing investments in our times. Marketing as a whole is become very complex right now. We got so much stuff thrown at us on social media all the way to television, if anyone still watches that, and we're overwhelmed and people have learned to turn off. And it's amazing, you can actually get people to spend $10-20 to buy a whole book of your marketing material and read it when we can't get them to watch a commercial.
Exactly. But the thing is, it doesn't feel like a commercial because what you're doing are 3 things. I use the acronym ACE, ACE, Authority, credibility, expertise. Authority means, okay, this is the go-to person on this topic. It's like, who should you trust? This person. Credibility means people can believe what you say as an authority figure. Now, there are authority figures that we don't deem as credible, right? There's a lot of folks in politics and in the sciences that they may be authorities, but they ain't credible. You want to have both those plus expertise, which means you can offer insightful advice to readers. Do all three of those things in your book, and you become unstoppable. A good example of this, a client told me yesterday, he said, Joshua, I look at all of my competition. They all have books. He's in a professional services industry, where it's very important to demonstrate your authority, credibility, and expertise to potential clients and make them pick you, or at least inspire them to pick you rather than the competition. And he was telling me, my client, he said, all of my competitors have books, but here's what they are. They're these skinny little tiny things that barely fit into your pocket. You open them up, they're poorly written. They look like they're edited transcripts of a phone call that the ghostwriter or scribe or editor or proofreader or an English student at university had with the author. It's unreadable. And what does that tell me? That tells me that they just want to get it over with. It's all show. I just want to get the book done so I can have a book. If you're that empty with something as important as a book, you must be that way with everything else inside of your business. Your marketing, your advertising, and your sales pitch are all flash and no substance. That's what a book done wrong communicates to your potential clients. And he's using that to his advantage by writing a 300-page, extremely useful ultimate guide to a subject matter that contains information that cannot be found on Google. I am a big proponent of writing ungoogleable books, meaning that what you have to say, you cannot find on Google. Your perspectives, thoughts, experiences, opinions, views, feedback, hot takes cannot be found elsewhere. If that does not describe your book, you did it wrong and you probably shouldn't publish it.
And I think that's one of the things about hiring a ghostwriter is that your breadth and depth of knowledge about the publishing industry and what's out there and what can be done is going to be far more than anyone who is just dabbling in the industry. It's kind of like talking to your accountant and saying, is this deductible? And, you as a layperson can't tell, but your accountant, he knows that you're not paying them for their time. You're paying for them for their depth of expertise and their knowledge in something that is, outside your area. The time it takes to write a book, that whole time you're not getting that return on investment, as we mentioned. And I remember calculating it, and it was very quickly that it made a return on investment having someone write the book for you. You had to have only a very small increase in sales. I think you were even tweeting some clients found that 10 new clients paid for their book.
Yes. When I think about the potential for return on investment, I always tell clients it's not necessary that you have to sell millions of copies of your book. All you have to do is write your book so that it can be put in the hands of your high-ticket prospects. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen is they're going to say, wow, this is good. This is what I came here for. This is what I came here for. And then what's going to happen? They're going to be more likely to hire you over your competition because not only you have a book, but you did it right. If you do that with the terrible book, like these skinny little things, guess what? They open the book and they're like, wow, this person.
I'm glad I didn't hire this guy.
Right. So you're doing all this effort to write the book and market and promote it. You put it in someone's hands and it repels them from doing business with you forever. That is the ultimate peril of publishing, and it's extremely common. That's why you have something like, what is it, like 90% of independent authors earn less than $100 a year from their book. That's not just book sales, that's everything else on top of their book. Wow. It's remarkable. The average self-published book sells fewer than 100 copies in its lifetime. And again, I'm not saying that you you should aspire to sell tens of thousands of copies, but when you have a strategy, when you know where the book fits inside of your business, and that's what I mean by strategy. Like, what are you going to do with the book? Well, I'm going to sell it. Oh, really? You and your 50 followers? Don't think so. Don't think so. What are you going to use it for? One of the most popular tactics for a services business, and this could be graphic design services or legal services, getting a list of your dream prospects, mailing a copy of your book to them with a nice introductory letter to you to your work? Obviously, signing it in ink and inviting them to book a conversation with you. Get on your schedule. See what's next. I have clients, that's all they do to promote the book. That's all they do. They don't promote it on Amazon or run ads on Facebook or do funnels or any of this fancy stuff. They get 5 to 10 new clients a year who each pay them 25 to 50K a pop each. And it's because of the book. That would not have happened without a book. Now, I also have clients that do that with multi-million-dollar deals where they're like in manufacturing or in some sort of a technology-based industry where the deal sizes are significantly higher than that, significantly higher than a few thousand or even tens of thousands. It doesn't happen without a book. It doesn't happen without a book because it gives you the edge that you otherwise would not have gotten. And the reason why, to bring it on home, you get to be the person who says, hire me because I wrote the book on it.
I remember every time I was doing business with really big companies, and I'd almost always walk away with 2 or 3 books about the company. History of the company. This is why we're so innovative. It's interesting. Even companies, the innovation wasn't what they were selling. They were really keen to show how they were innovative because it means they're better to do business with. They're going to adapt to the future. And I never really connected it that way. I never placed why they were doing that. And that's brilliant. I never thought of that. Excellent. What though, if I'm not going to make a book or a blog, why is it important that I still know how to write well? Why, it's just 2020. You can phone people, you can send them a voice message, or, we can share information purely by video. Why is writing still the most important, probably the most important business skill, life skill that you need in the future?
Yes, because especially when we're doing less face-to-face personal interactions and there's less conversations, guess what? In spoken communication, the words you use is only 7% of the message. When you're talking face-to-face with someone in person or over the phone or over Zoom or what have you, all of the context is present with body language and verbal tone and inflection and pauses and pacing. If you transcribe exactly what was said in a conversation, 93% of what was communicated is gone because it's only the words that show up in the transcript. It's only the words that show up in the transcript. That means if you write the way you talk, you're botching it. You're doing it 93% wrong, meaning you're only getting across 7% of what needs to be said. So a lot of authors would be like, well, my voice is so distinct. I have such a powerful author voice. I can't possibly trust a ghostwriter editor with my voice. Okay, guess what? I look at what they wrote. It sounds like they said it to a friend of theirs at the coffee shop. The problem is it reads exactly like they said it to a friend at a coffee shop, and it's unreadable in print. Now, it would work great as an audiobook, maybe, and I do advise clients to do audiobooks. But by itself, it's like, that's a little cringy. So the art of and science of persuasive writing is taking the literal words of that you want to get across, the message you want to get across, and expanding it to include all the other points of meaning that need to be in that message to get across what you want to say. So it's not just the literal words, the thought that's in your head that you want to put down and get it into someone else. It is, how can I best present this 7%? Like the literal message that I would have spoken had I been working at the office with that person or had my regular meetings with them in the office. But now it's digital. Now everything is Slack or email or what have you, or docs back and forth, whatever. If you cannot be the most effective communicator and bring back that 93% that it would otherwise be missing, then you're missing out on incredible opportunities to persuade, to win people over. And that's gets to what I see persuasion as. Manipulation is trying to trick people into doing what you want them to do that's not in their best interest. Persuasion is basically entering the conversation already happening in someone's head and being a trusted voice in that conversation and leading them to a mutually beneficial outcome. I know that there was a lot there, but that's because persuasion is complex. It's extremely complex. And that's what I've intended to do with programs like The Best Way to Say It, is to simplify a persuasion. Bring it down to only the things that you need to know about it so that your writing can be instantly improved, so that you can persuade more.
Yeah, I always describe it as the difference is reciprocity. In persuasion, it's reciprocal. You're offering something and asking for something, and it's mutually beneficial. And manipulation is parasitical. It's one-sided. Someone's trying to take something from you. And it's really, really important that we learn how to be persuasive in life in general. I used to work as a business coach, and so I would follow around CEOs, mid and higher level executives, and try to figure out why their departments weren't working. And the two things that I discovered were almost always missing were their ability to write well was lacking, and their ability to persuade. So they could make a list of things they wanted done, but they couldn't get anyone excited about doing them. You know, they couldn't even explain to people why those things needed to be done. And so what happens is you just don't get any commitment or buy-in from your workers, and they lose interest quickly. Money is not enough to motivate people. They need to be a little bit emotionally motivated. They need to be excited about what they're doing. And even if you have a face-to-face meeting, there has to be written follow-up. You know, every very successful company, they have a meeting, someone takes notes, and they turn those notes into to-do lists, into follow-up, into company policy or procedure. And that's essential to actually get action out of those meetings.
That's right. That's right. When you've got persuasion and writing ability together, you become unstoppable in any industry, And I've proven that by being a ghostwriter in dozens of different industries. When I went back and looked at all the pieces of content I've written, I have written professionally in over 100 different industries on behalf of my clients. It is the ultimate recession-proof, coronavirus-proof talent, is being able to effectively communicate an idea to its intended audience, whether that audience is literally children or it's the C-suite of the Fortune 500 or it's academics. And I can do all of that because I understand how to take a message that's in your head and then bring it into words and then translate it so that it can be easily inserted into someone else's mind. It's literary inception. If you recall that Christopher Nolan film Inception, you're putting an idea inside someone's head and then making them feel like they have ownership of it. That's persuasion. That's what I do.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny how often that movie comes up in conversations that I've been having lately, because that idea of putting ideas into people's heads and helping them then to see it is very powerful. You know, we often don't even understand the ideas in our own head until we write them down. Writing is kind of like a sort of magic. You take something that doesn't exist in the real world. It's just a vague thought in your head. You write it down on a piece of paper, and now it becomes a physical object. It's starting to become real. And I think for a lot of people, improving their ability to write, even if they never share what they're writing, and they're just writing about what they want to do, about their own life, about their own thinking, is a big part of developing agency and creating the ability to control what you are thinking and to know what it is you really want. A lot of people don't know until they write it down. And I'm always surprised. It's a big part of the course that I do with people for agency is that they need to write things down. And I even prefer if they can handwrite it, because there's a kind of connection between your brain and your hand when you're writing things down that helps you to remember it. And also it makes on-the-fly editing difficult, which means you tend to get the truth out. We don't accidentally edit out the truth trying to hide something. We just write it out as it comes. That kind of brain dump that you mentioned is extremely important to good writing at the very beginning. But it really is important to clear up our mind. I think the more that we write, the more clear our thinking becomes. Because just like we're structuring things in the paper, they get structured in our mind too. And it helps us to sharpen our thoughts and sharpen our instincts and to explain things verbally as well. You know, you write, you get better at speaking. And we used to have this as part of public education. You had rhetoric, you had to argue in front of the class the things you believed in. There were debates and there was a lot of critical writing, not where you would tear down something, which is what they mean often now, but where you would figure out what it really meant. What does this mean? And once you can understand what someone else is meaning by their words, you can then start to explain your ideas to other people using words as well. And we basically lost that in school now. We have very little truly difficult and taxing literary assignments. Like I saw in, for example, my grandfather, he still had his entire curriculum through school. And I remember looking at it as a kid and saying, hey, this is way harder than the stuff they're doing in my school now. And that was only 2 generations different. And I'm a generation and a half out of school now. So I'm sure it's even simpler. So it's really something as adults we're going to have to take a level up on. And I think the best place to do that isn't the same institutions that failed to teach us how to write well in the first place, but it's really to go and take courses like what you've provided. It's amazing how quickly using a system can improve your thinking and improve your writing.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting, which is, what is the clearest way to say this? What am I actually saying here? And I see this a lot with corporate language when you're talking, using phrases like, we achieved a certain level of success, period. And you see CEOs write like that. They don't know what they're talking about. No one knows what they're talking about. A certain level of success. Okay, what was that certain level precisely? Don't say it was a certain level. Describe what it was. And then a level, like level up, level down. What do you mean by level? It's abstract. It's not literal. And then successful. What do you mean by success? If you see that once, you begin to see that sort of writing everywhere, and it's really bad. It's really bad. And it also shows like you are out of touch, like you don't know what you're talking about. All perils in communication and also in credibility. Mm-hmm. People who are not persuasive are anti-persuasive. Full stop. If you're not actively persuading and effectively persuading readers to your point of view, you're repelling them away from it. It goes one way or the other. And if you're not 100% certain that every word is the right one, you're being anti-persuasive.
Yeah, I think if you're not sure, produce less until you are sure. And then go and only produce things that you know are going to be effective for your goal, to achieve your goal. And really the goal of persuasion is to get people to act.
Exactly. And acting in such a way that is decisive, which can sometimes mean absolutely not, I'm going to unsubscribe. And that's okay. You don't want to associate with people who want nothing to do with you or your kind. And that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I really had a hard time with new businesses that I was consulting with, is to tell them, you don't want that client. That client is notorious for not paying, or whatever the problem was. They have a bad reputation. Look at their credit score. Don't do business with them. And all they saw was potential business. And I think the way that they communicate, I would tell them to communicate with them in a certain way where you don't have to tell them no. They understand that their bad behavior won't be tolerated and there'll be consequences, and they don't want the consequences. They'll just go away. And that was pushing away the wrong kind of clients is almost as important in persuasion as pulling in the right ones as well.
Exactly. Versus just being kind of vague and, okay, well, that's great. For example, I am regularly dispensing harsh advice on Twitter and on YouTube. I make no bones about the fact that I have very little respect for the vast majority of my competition, usually because I'm not the first ghostwriter who gets chosen. Meaning, I'm sometimes the second or third or fourth, or in one case, the 13th ghostwriter that was hired by an author. And they just had ghastly experiences with the first ones. Either they edited out their voice, claimed to have expertise in the industry, and all they were just doing is copying and pasting Wikipedia articles and tweaking the words. Seriously, there is an alleged New York Times bestselling ghostwriting. He claims to have something like hundreds of books ghostwritten. I saw a sample because I now have one of his ex-clients who had promptly fired him after seeing that the opening chapter he sent him was literally copied and pasted from Wikipedia with a few words changed. A New York Times best-selling ghostwriter. And then there are these self-publishers, these vanity presses, who claim, we'll help you get all your publishing dreams come true. And all they do is open you an Amazon Kindle Direct publishing account, pay $75 on Fiverr to create a cover, slap it on your book cover, put it on Amazon, and call it publishing. that's not anything close to what actual publishing is. That's a scam. It turns out that I have, I believe, on both YouTube and Google, the top search results for ghostwriting scam, ghostwriter scam, publishing scam, those sorts of keywords, because I have pointed out the strategies that these scammers use to entrap aspiring authors. So that's one of the things. If you're like, oh, I don't like that energy, he's not being nice. I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to tell the truth. And so
never hire a nice consultant.
Yes. So there are aspiring authors. I want somebody friendly who can, they can inspire me. That's not me. Okay. If you want this to be a profitable venture and not one that you regret for the rest of your life, I'm your guy. But if you don't care about that, and it's better to, work with somebody who feel like basically like a life coach who can tell you, oh, you're just trying so hard. Good for you. Pat on the back. There are ghostwriters out there like that, but that is not me. That is not me. And I'm okay with people hearing that and saying, oh, Josh was such a jerk. Well, we're better off going our separate ways then. There's somebody else who wants to be successful with their book, and it's probably a competitor of yours. And I'm okay with them eating up your market share, Mr. Client, Miss Client.
Yeah, I think even for life coaches, if that's all you're doing your client a disservice. It's our job to tell people the truth, even when the truth isn't pleasant. And that's, if you don't like that, go talk to your mom and she'll pat you on the head and give you some milk and cookies and you'll be 8 years old again. But for adults, we need to be able to hear the truth. And, you give a review of my book. I really appreciate that, you privately. And yeah, you didn't pull any punches, and it did sting a little when I first heard it. And then I thought, I'm really glad that he was totally honest with me. And that actually greatly increased my trust of you and my opinion of you, hearing that brutal and honest, because, we know each other outside of a work environment too. So a little bit, through social media. And so there is a tendency for people to say what you want them to hear. The book was done. It's not like I could directly implement your changes in the printing of the book. And yet you were still, it gave me not what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. I think that's extremely important for anyone that's giving you consultation. You want someone that's a little bit or even a lot disagreeable, because you're going to get the truth, and that's what you need. And you need the truth quickly.
Exactly.
You don't want it takes you 6 months to get around to the point.
Yeah. I've learned about the power of being disagreeable because early on in my career, I'm relatively young for what I've accomplished. I would venture to say from any independent observer, they would say that I'm literally the most accomplished ghostwriter in recorded civilization history. I'm not even 30 years old yet, and I have all of these books that I've done. That said, given my age, early on in my career, what do you think my problem was? Holding back, pulling punches. Do I really want to say that? Do I really want to hear that? Are they going to say that's what, you're 22, just write my book. Okay, just get it done. You're a great writer, just write my book. Okay. That was my issue early on, is I would not tell what I saw as the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So what happened? There were a few clients who went paths that I knew were unwise, and I brought it up to them. But they said, well, my buddy has a lot more years in business than you do, and he says this, so I think he's right. I trust him. We've been friends for 30 years. You're 23. And a good example of this is an individual who we had an excellent title for the book. The value that we're going to deliver to readers through this book was stupid obvious. Excellent title and subtitle. Then a buddy of his who is worth something like $50 million, has this gorgeous New England mansion, thought it would be a great idea if he came up with a cutesy little clever title that no one knew what in the world it possibly meant. Oh, readers really like when they have to think about a title. You should call it this. And he gave him a title that was as awful as I'm describing it. We have non-disclosure, so I'm not going to name names here. And so the author went with that title, and no one knew what the heck the book was about from the title. I pushed back at least once. Now I push back 3 times. Minimum. I will tell you why that pet project idea of yours won't work, why it won't work, and what you need to do instead, and why you need to do it. Basically, I'll push back and remind you of that 3 times. At the end of the day, as a professional ghostwriter, it's your book, not mine. But it's my job to prevent you from falling into the traps that other parties out there have laid for you, and sometimes even the ones that you put on your own path.
Yeah, I think giving that kind of perspective is one of the most important reasons why you have any kind of a consultant. We get emotionally attached to our own ideas, and we get influenced by people that we think are more successful than us, and they might be more successful in their area. It doesn't mean that they know about what we're doing. They don't necessarily know, in your case, about ghostwriting. And we're making these emotional decisions, and by hiring someone who's outside of our emotional loop, they're uninfluenced by that. They can give us honest perspective versus tainted perspective. And it's not necessarily that we're wrong. It's just that it's tainted. It's less right than the advice we're going to get from an expert in the field who's outside of our loop. It's kind of the same reason that you don't want to have a doctor that's a close friend, because there's an emotional connection it's in the loop there. And you're going to end up perhaps with some complications having someone so close to you. But having that outside perspective, I like how you give them the 3 ways of the 3 things you said, the warnings basically, and that again is persuasion. It is partly to persuade people that they need to make good decisions, and still respecting, of course, their autonomy as the client. No, it is. It's very powerful, and I bet you that you end up doing a lot of, I would say, kind of coaching therapy almost with people when they come to you with their book, because there's probably a lot of people that come to you thinking they were going to write it on their own, frustrated that it's not going how they want, and you have to untangle that. Does that kind of thing happen very often?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. What I see a lot with pretty much every ghostwriting project is we begin with a vague idea that they want to go somewhere. They kind of see where it can go, but they face the strange paradox of writer's block. And that's what writer's block is. It's a paradox. Like, what do you mean you don't know what to write about? Of course you do. Well, here's the issue. You sit down to begin writing, and you realize that you have a lifetime's worth of stories, experiences, and whatnot in the library of your mind. And all of a sudden, you don't know exactly what to write first. What's the first word of the first sentence of the first paragraph? What ought it be? What's the best way to word it? You don't know. I do. Okay, I do. No. And it's not like I have special intuition. I have a system. The best way to say it is a system I use for all of my clients. And it starts off with getting everything down that you want to say. No particular order, just as it comes to you. And then you restructure it. Well, what actually comes first? What is the first thing you need to know? And if there are gaps in that reordering process, you fill it, you add it, you throw in a story. And then you finally refine what it is that you've written so that you're answering the 2 questions. What all do I want to say here? And then what's the best way to say what I've written? Those are the 2 questions that the system answers. That's what I do with my clients. And I've been doing for years, whether it's a 300-word article or a 300-page book. And the result, of course, is that they have a book that builds their authority, credibility, and expertise rather than dismantles it. And over the years, to your point, Coach, I have become more and more disagreeable or less and less agreeable. And I think it's because I've met so many aspiring authors who their ego got in the way of their teachability. And I saw, given what I had as my very first projects, what worked, what didn't, I knew if they even had what it takes to make it as an author. So nowadays, I do not beat around the bush. I tell the truth. And as you had said, that is endearing quality when someone is willing to risk the truth, because as Seth Godin said, all marketers are liars. And so I want to be seen as an anti-marketer, as somebody like, wow, that kind of pisses me off a little bit. I need to hire him.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you become more successful, it's easier to be disagreeable.
Because people know that you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
There was somebody who said in response to, I did a long Twitter thread, 1 retweet equals 1 harsh truth about book writing and publishing. Someone responded and said, Joshua, you have the rare quality of being a rebel who also knows what the hell you're talking about. Took me quite a bit to get this way. The more successful I've become, the less agreeable I've become, because I know what it does take to become successful. And I'll give you an example of this. Every author of mine is required to follow the jobs to be done framework when we come up with the title and subtitle. To deviate from that is to risk the entire project's success. So the jobs to be done framework goes a little bit like this. You and I have talked about this, I think, in the DMs before. It's basically this. Customers buy tools to get jobs done. For example, a potential author customer wants to get the job done of writing a book and publishing it and marketing it. And those are broad categories, though. There are a bunch of different jobs associated with each of them. The job of picking the right idea, the job of outlining it, the job of the first draft, the job of writing every single word of the first draft, the job of refining the first draft, the job of resizing it for print, the job of finding the right publisher, the job of publishing it themselves. If you begin to break down everything that has to happen for the client to get the meta job, which is I want a book that builds authority, credibility, and expertise. That makes me an ACE with the acronym. There's like 1,001 jobs associated with that. Many of them, if not most of them, they're willing to pay someone else to do to get those done. And the thing that they're paying for is a tool in jobs to be done theory. I first read about it in an article by Tony Ulwick in Harvard Business Review. It came out about 7 or 8 years ago when I was transitioning from part-time side hustle freelancer to full-time writing pro. And that has stayed with me ever since. So every title and subtitle of a book of my clients, I will not let you be clever. I will force you, as best as it's in my power to, choose a title that articulates clearly what your tool does, what jobs it helps them get done, focusing on the meta job. Because if I don't know exactly what value your book is going to bring me, what it's going to do for me, I'm not going to risk $20 and 8 hours of my life on it. Because that's what you're doing now, is you're asking readers to not just spend $20 with that one-time transaction, but to invest roughly 8 hours. That's how long it takes to read an average nonfiction book. You're asking them to give that to you. That's worth way more than money, way more than money. So you have to go even further than competition who, oh, I want to write a book. I hope somebody buys it. Marketing is stupid easy when you follow the jobs to be done framework, because you're just simply telling each member of your potential customer audience about your new tool. In this case, it's the book that's going to help them get done what they already want to do. When an author hears about jobs to be done theory for the first time, everything clicks. And they instantly know that not only that I know what I'm talking about, but they see exactly what their book needs to be. And we finally have the gold standard that decides what does and what doesn't go in their book, what is on the back cover, what's not on the back cover, so on and so forth. So that's something that I'm disagreeable about, that this is the one system that we're following. If there are other frameworks or processes that are in alignment with that, sure, we'll follow them. But for the most part, we're sticking with that. If you deviate from that, you cannot be my client. We're done.
That must really clarifies things. And I think even for the viewer to understand the process of ghostwriting, that will clarify what their part of the process is. Because we know what your part is, and for the client to know what their part of getting a ghostwriter is that they got to figure that out. What is the job people are getting done? That's really a great way to think about it. And I think anytime that we're trying to sell anything, it's not just for selling your book, it's for selling anything you're going to do, because you also write sales letters and other things as well. It's that same thing. What are people going to get done with that? This is why you'll see for very simple products that everyone knows what it is. You don't need sales copy to sell a hammer. Everyone knows what a hammer is. That's a thing you hit nails with, right? It's a thing you break stuff with. It's very simple. You know what it is. If only all products were as simple as a hammer, it would be easy to sell them. It's a hammer. It's a bigger one than the other hammer. And that would be the description. And oftentimes when people are writing a book, I knew when I was writing my book, there are concepts in the book that I know that most people don't know. What is agency? At the time I started writing the book, it really wasn't in common vernacular. A lot of people that were in the self-improvement sphere were using it. but it wasn't so common in the general public. And I do starting to see it now seeping out into the general public, into people's consciousness. But it's very difficult to write a book on a subject. And I wish I'd had you as a resource before I'd started writing my book. I guarantee you it would have turned out differently. Version 2 will fix it then. But knowing that job's to be done, you can start to say, hey, maybe I don't need to use that name in the name of the book. Maybe I need to simplify that down into words that people know. And that's one of the other things you talk about is writing at a 5th grade level, I think.
Yes. Writing at 5th grade level so that even a kid can understand exactly what it is that you're offering, what it means, what it's about. And the reason why is people are busy. They're busier than they ever have been before. So if you're coming along and simply saying, hey, here's this really cool, exciting new tool that you need to learn about. In this case, maybe it's agency. I have no idea what that is. Yeah. Anyway, it's definitely in-group language. It would be considered jargon, meaning there's specific people who know exactly what that is and why they want it. But a book is a product for the mass market. I like to give the example, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Everyone wants to be an effective person, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective Middle Managers at Fortune 500 tech companies whose headquarters is in Silicon Valley. That is not a commercially viable book. It's just not. It's not. Maybe that is a $997 course. That would be cool. That's kind of like an upsell for a very, very particular type of a niche. But for the general audiences with a $20 product like a book or an audiobook, you got to keep it general. You got to keep it broad. You got to keep it to as many people who can consume this information and get use from it as possible. That's a winning book idea. If you're not broad like that, and also making it stupid obvious what the value is. Like, you're going to become a highly effective person, and here are 7 ways to do that. And then the subtitle goes even further to explain that value. There's no guesswork. There's no guesswork. And I think that's why so many authors have issues with titling their books or even writing their own synopsis or book description or blurb or promotional copy, is they don't actually know what their books are about. Yes, they know it's in the books. But when I ask an author who often will maybe have a book already written, I'll ask them, so what jobs is your book getting done for your customers? What is your tool doing for them? Deer meet headlight. They have no clue. They have no clue. Well, my book is about, it's about a new philosophy for living in the world. Okay, what is that philosophy doing for readers? Well, it's going to inspire them. How is it going to inspire them? Because it's just unique and it's new and it's fresh. Okay, what about its uniqueness and freshness is going to offer value to them that they cannot get on Google or from Jordan Peterson? Deer meet headlight, part 2. Okay, so thinking about jobs to be done from the very beginning, that this is a book that is going to be doing things for readers that they already want to do. It just happens that I have the best way to get it done. And a good example of this is the way I title my own course, The Best Way to Say It. This is a persuasive writing system that will teach you the best way to say anything with epic persuasion, from 300-word blog posts to 300-page books. It BS proofs your content. It makes you look like a credible person, an authority, the go-to expert. And it's because of the quality of your writing. Your writing will have never been clear. And I've got like 300 testimonials burning a hole in my Google Drive space right now for people who have gone through the program. It's remarkable. People selling their first products online forever. One guy, he regularly does sales emails once a month. He went through the system. He rewrote the sales email he was going to send. He sent it a second time, and he sold 70 times the number that he had sold in any of the previous 12 months on a rolling average by rewriting a sales letter according to my system. That's the power of The Best Way to Say It. And it's not just for that. It's also for personal projects like cover letters to send ahead with your resume. It even works for that. And I always joke, is there anything The Best Way to Say It cannot do? We still haven't found that the answer is no.
Well, I always joke that for men, it's super important to be persuasive, even for married men, because a big part of managing a family is persuading everyone to cooperate and work together and to get along. And, persuading children is the peaceful way to raise them, instead of hitting them into submission, which is what used to be what was popular. It was it was a manipulation, really, or manipulating them emotionally, which is what a lot of people do today. When you persuade your children to go along with the family plans, or even you allow them to persuade you sometimes, you end up with a peaceful relationship with them. It's mutually beneficial, and you get a much stronger level of cooperation. And I really see this with my wife. You know, if I don't explain what I want, I'll tell her what I want, but not why. If I do that, then she may or may not do it. She might say yes, but she may or may not do it. If I persuade her, because women will say yes, even when all that they mean is stop bothering me. And then you get it. They go and they do the thing because they were persuaded, not just because you said, oh, please get this thing done. And I find that for even in private life, being good at being persuasive makes your relationships better. You know, people will start to enjoy having a conversation with you because they're going to come away persuaded to take some action that's probably beneficial for them. Right. And that's something that I've always enjoyed, is having conversations with people and then seeing how that maybe changed something that they did. And they'll message me back and go, yeah, I finally went and talked to that girl that I was nervous to. I messaged her as soon as I got home, you know, that I wanted to talk to, or whatever it happened to be. And there's a lot of joy in being a persuasive person. You know, you get to see other people benefit from your advice. So it's really something. That's why I said it's about all the relationships in your life, all the interactions that you have. Being better at being persuasive makes a difference. And I really appreciate you joining me for this interview today. And you've probably persuaded a lot of people to buy your course, and they can do that using the link that's in the description. And I've had a few clients actually purchase your course, and that was the very first time that I heard about it, because they came to me raving about how, oh, you got to buy this course. It's great. I want to be a ghostwriter now. Or they wanted to write sales copy or whatever it was. And so they were excited about it. And I actually recommend to all of my clients now that are getting a side gig, doesn't matter what the industry is, you're going to start a side gig. You're going to need to write and communicate, at least on your website. Go buy Josh Lisec's courses. You know, if you're not sure about the one, buy the smaller one if you're not sure, and then you're going to get that value. Go buy the bigger one. You know,
yeah. You mentioned the smaller one. That is a 46-minute training I put together called "Write This, Not That," and that's where I go through what I see as the top 45 anti-persuasion mistakes that show up in a final draft of an article, an email, a cover letter, a sales page, a book, even. Do these 45 things and you will come across as anti-persuasive, meaning you will diminish your authority, dismantle your credibility, and asinine your expertise. You don't want to do those things. So it's very much a loss aversion pitch that I give for Write This, Not That. Basically, like, you know, are you the emperor with no clothes? Are you the writer with no persuasion? Really? That's what and it's $27 US in US currency. Best way to say it is $99. People keep saying this should be at least $500, if not $5,000. Joshua, what the flip are you doing? It's 12 hours of stuff. Much of the content is where I'm walking through a piece of content I'm actually working on in front of you, so you can see it done in real time. It's not just a course, it's a demonstration, and it's a step-by-step process I teach you how to follow with every piece of content. And if you're going to do it, make sure you get them through either of them through our Man Coach's links here. With that, I'm about to scoot. Anything else before we say a bid farewell for today, Coach?
No, that was great. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been fantastic. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with you in the future on my next book.
You bet. It'll be a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It's been dandy.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching our video, and I hope it inspired you to take action in your life. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video to get more agency building content. The real secret sauce is in our newsletter. Click on the link in the video description below to sign up. I promise I won't flood your inbox, and anything that we do send you will be of high value.